Zones. This podcast is at the basic level. It requires no knowledge of Accordance Bible software, nor Hebrew or Greek. The most amazing feature we've added in Accordance 9, at least in my opinion, is zones. Zones enable users to set aside specific areas of their workspace for designated tasks. Today we'll examine this new feature, seeing how zones work within Accordance workspaces, considering some examples of custom workspaces with multiple zones, and exploring how to create our very own multi-zone workspace. Up until now, zones and workspaces have been identical. That is, every Accordance workspace had only a single zone, though that zone could contain multiple tabs, each with its own parallel panes. Now version 9 adds multiple zones. These zones can all be text panes, or we can designate them for other resources. For example, we can use one corner for a pair of zones, like an atlas and a timeline, another for a picture from our photo guide, and another two for a separate search text and the details of that search. Now that we've seen some of the possibilities, let's review the basic components in an Accordance workspace and see how they work together. The workspace is the largest working unit in Accordance. It can be divided into multiple zones, each of which is normally independent of the other. Zones themselves may each have multiple tabs, only one of which can be displayed at a time. That helps keep the workspace neatly organized. Each tab may have one or more panes, all of which will scroll together. Here's another way to think of these components, in hierarchical order. A workspace may be divided into one or more zones, each of which contain multiple tabs. Each tab, in turn, may have multiple panes. Perhaps looking at some sample workspaces will help make this more practical. Sample workspaces. The first example would make a great devotional workspace. It's set up for the user who studies the Bible only in English. Nevertheless, it brings powerful tools to bear on every passage. The left zone contains a variety of English Bibles, which this user has arranged in 4 horizontal panes. The middle column is actually 2 separate zones, which hold 4 of his Bible dictionaries. Each of these zones has 2 tabs, each one with a single pane, and all of them are linked to his default dictionary. The right column also has 2 zones, both with multiple tabs, though these 2 only have a single pane each. These zones are reserved for Bible commentaries, all linked to the default commentary. Our second sample workspace is designed to research Hebrew grammatical constructions. This user has set up 4 separate zones. In the right zone, she has placed the Hebrew Bible next to our new syntax module. Then linked the search entry box to the Hebrew construct window in the middle zone. The top left zone has 2 of her Hebrew lexicons arranged in tabs, and the bottom right zone shows the details of her current search. Our final sample workspace is designed for those interested in the history of religions. This specific one is set up to compare Middle Eastern creation accounts. This user has also set up 4 separate zones, though in a slightly different configuration. In the top center, he has 4 panes, each with a rendition of Genesis 1 in English, the ESV, Targum Onkelos, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Septuagint. The left zone has the Babylonian creation account from the context of Scripture. The bottom center zone has another instance of the context of Scripture, this one open to an Egyptian creation account. The last zone, on the right, is Philo's creation account, a Gnostic midrash on Genesis. Each of these zones scrolls separately, making this kind of direct comparison among texts from different canons possible for the first time. Now let's see how to set up some zones for ourselves in Accordance. The first thing I'm going to do is to open a new workspace from the File menu, or by simply typing Command N. Notice in version 9 it now appears with our default text, and you'll notice that mine is the ESV. I'm going to go ahead and change it to a search for words, and I'm going to change it for a search for David and Jerusalem. I think that'll be just a fine example here. Now, there are a variety of ways to add additional texts. Let's use a few of them. If I add another text using the Add Text icon in the Search Results window, it opens another pane. Let's say I'll add the Hebrew Bible here. However, if I add the same text from my library or the resource palette, I'll open it from the library, notice that it goes to a new tab. The same is true with adding tools. For example, if I open a reference tool from this icon, let's say I'll open the Apologetic Study Bible, like so. It comes up in a parallel pane. If instead I go to a reference tool like so, and open my study Bible, it opens in a brand new zone. This one just called Apologetic Study Bible. Now we can also triple click to our default dictionary, like so, and to our default commentary, like so. Notice now that I have two zones. On the left, Accordance has automatically named it the text zone because I have several different texts. And in the right-hand zone, Accordance has named it the tool zone because I have several different kinds of tools. Now let's make this workspace a bit more complex. I'm going to open the Atlas by amplifying Jerusalem to the Atlas, and I think I'll use vivid colors here. Then I'm going to go ahead and open the timeline directly to David. Finally, let's go ahead and take a look at a details window for the results of our search, which I can get by clicking on this icon, and we'll go to an analysis graph, and add also a table bar chart to that. Notice then I have four zones: texts, tools, backgrounds, and details from the ESV. I can drag any one of these zones to a different place in my workspace. And notice as I drag the zone, it turns into a small, opaque version of it, and these gray rectangles show the different places that I can place this. I think I'll place it on the top row, between my texts and my tools. I can also drag a text in a different place. For example, if I'd like my reference tool displayed down here, I'll drag it here. Now, let me dismiss the library so we have a bit more space to work with, and I'll click on the Expand button for this workspace. Let me show you how to drag other zones. For example, if I want to drag the details from ESV from here down to here, I can create a row of 3 different zones. If I'd prefer to have my timeline displayed here, Accordance will allow me to do that. I can even take a different tab and experiment with the different places to put it. So for example, if I'd prefer to add that tab here, or here, or here, in all of these ways, Accordance lets me know the different kinds of places that I can put my zones. By the way, if I've decided that I don't like a zone, for instance this Apologetic Study Bible, and I want to put it back in a tab, I can easily do it just like this. Once we have our workspace laid out to our satisfaction, we can save it. Just simply click Save, name the zone. I'll put Podcast Example for this one. I'll save it. And by the way, if I really like it, I can even add it to my favorite workspaces, so that if I dismiss it, I can recall it with ease. Welcome to Accordance's new world of zones. If you haven't already upgraded to Accordance 9, I trust you will soon. Zones have made a great program even better, and they're just one of the amazing new features in our latest version. This is Dr. J for Accordance Bible Software. Thank you for watching this episode of Lighting the Lamp.